As we all know, man, it's been like 2-3 years of non-stop Nintendo Switch Pro news, or rumors more than anything. And with the recent release of the Nintendo OLED, I kind of felt that Nintendo had their plans a little delayed, whether that be because of supply chain issues, whether that be because of the pandemic, which I mean, they're closely tied together. I just think that Nintendo is slowly but surely trying to tease the next generation of gaming. I don't know exactly what the future of Nintendo holds. This is just right off the bat. This is just me hitting record and I say, hey, I just want to record something. I just want to put it out there and put my thoughts out there. Now, Nintendo has famously and historically been a very peaks and valleys kind of company. They have like extreme levels of success and then they completely crash down after a generation or two. I mean, you've seen it with, the success of the NES, the SNES, and then kind of a plateau a little bit on the N64, and then completely just not meet expectations as far as sales goes, because let's be honest, the GameCube is one of the best consoles out there. In my opinion, it has one of the best libraries, I want to say. And then it met success, great success after the GameCube and the Wii. And then once again, completely died down and almost went bankrupt with the Wii U. But here we are now in 2022, 5 years into the Nintendo Switch, which just recently surpassed, if I'm not mistaken, the Wii as far as sales, and it's destined to surpass one of the top selling consoles of all time. And now I think Nintendo might be struggling, they might be scrambling to see what the next iteration or what the next console generation is going to be for the company. Now, we all know the Wii U failed terribly for a myriad of reasons, but I think that the success of the Switch was due in part because of the Wii U. I mean, the Wii U, as we all know, it's designed to be able to play with a control pad in your hands. And Nintendo basically just merged the two parts of the Wii U into a single console, which was the console side, you being able to play video games on a TV, and just being able to pick it up and just play it on the go, such as the gamepad on the Wii U. And now I think it'd be a grave mistake for Nintendo to get rid of the hybrid model. I just don't think it's a great idea. I don't recommend it. To be honest, if they go back to just being a console, solely a console, or like even them splitting up the hybrid model and making a console and a handheld version, but they're not the same console in essence, I'm gonna be very upset, and I don't know if I would be able to digest it or adopt that model as easily as I was able to adopt the Switch, because I'm gonna be honest, before 2017, I wasn't playing a lot of video games. I played video games, growing up. Obviously, my first console was an SNES. Played the N64. I had the GameCube. I still have my N64 out here. I had the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360. I had it up until college. When college came, I kind of sold everything. I moved out of my parents' house, obviously, to go to college, and I kind of lost track of gaming in general, and specifically Nintendo. I grew up as a Nintendo fanboy. All of my memories are playing Nintendo. I didn't have another system from another company, another video game company, up until the Xbox 360. Before that, it was nothing but Nintendo. But right after the Wii, and even up until 2 years into the Wii's life cycle, I kind of stopped caring about Nintendo a little bit. It started to become very gimmicky to me. I didn't enjoy it as much. Obviously, I was a teenager of some sorts, so I wanted to play all the shooty games, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare. I wanted online. I wanted the online playability more than anything. I love multiplayer games. So that's kind of when I started stepping away from Nintendo. But it wasn't up until 2017, 2018, when the Switch was rising to success, that I saw what made Nintendo games specifically so endearing to me. The Nintendo polish, the the game direction, the art style, the music, all of these things that really captivated me growing up, playing Zelda, playing Mario, playing Pokemon more than anything. I missed Pokemon so much, and it wasn't until this generation with Sword and Shield that I finally got back into it. But a huge reason for that was the hybrid method. I quickly found out, I used to be, when I first bought a Switch, I thought that the hybrid method was a little gimmicky at first. I would only play docked mode, but when I started picking up the Switch and actually playing in my bed and, just being able to fall asleep, like, that's a huge thing. I grew up watching TV trying to fall asleep, and it relaxes me having background noise to fall asleep. But being able to like actually play video games and that become kind of like how they say that you should read a book before you go to bed so you can fall asleep easier. That's what basically the Switch became for me. So it really captivated me, and I think the hybrid method is something that if Nintendo really doesn't take care of or doesn't innovate upon, they might land themselves in really hot water. I think the Switch right now is so successful, and I think Nintendo in general is too successful to fail, that even if the next iteration isn't as successful as the Switch, they'll still be fine. They'll still be okay. I think, first of all, I think the first step that Nintendo needs to take to really transition smoothly and keep the success rate of the company of their games going is gonna have to be backwards compatibility. In no way I think people would be happy if the next console is not backwards compatible. Why? I mean, just look at how many games there's on the Switch. The Switch is the best indie console. It is the best platformer console. It is the best console to play mainline games specifically from Nintendo nowadays, because if you know, almost all of the Wii U games have been ported over to the Switch, and they've been huge successes. Like even Pikmin 3 has become a huge success on the console. So I don't know if going forward Nintendo not being more open to backwards compatibility as they probably were with back in the Game Boy games, when you were still able to play certain Game Boy games with certain Game Boys, backwards compatibility with, for example, the Wii being able to play GameCube games. I think if they don't start adopting that practice a lot more, I think the next iteration of the console will not be as successful as the Switch, or they might not be able to take Nintendo to the next step of that success. Besides that, keeping up with the hybrid model, backwards compatibility is a huge one. I won't get too much into graphics because, let's be honest, Nintendo games have never been powerhouses. They have never, the consoles, the hardware have never been powerhouses. Of course, the Wii U was one of the, it was an HD console. The GameCube was pretty well powered, powered in the generation, as far as if you look at the grand scheme of things. The N64 was pretty monumental as far as 3D graphics. Even the SNES with the Super FX chip, like that was, I know that was mind-blowing for people to play Star Fox in that game for the first time back in the day. But that's the thing, I don't think Nintendo's main strengths for the next generation are going to be graphics based. Of course, there's all this DLSS talk about AI upscaling for certain games that are AI upscaled, especially with Nvidia. They have this technology by using AI and makes it makes the fidelity look a little bit better, but I don't think Nintendo is too focused on that, and I don't expect them to for their next game console to be 4K. Honestly, I don't see the point. I have my PS5 right here, and to be honest, all of my friends that have PS5s, they never play in 4K. They just don't see the need for it. It's a little bit overkill at times. So I just don't think the average household cares too much about 4K because they do not have the tools to play that 4K, meaning they don't have 4K TVs. 4K is not a widely standard method of reproducing images in all the households. So I think what Nintendo's going to focus a lot more is on stability as far as frame rates. If they focus more on 60 FPS games at 1080p, like native 1080p, and maintaining those frame rates, I think they are going to be pretty well off. And especially if it's still a hybrid model, I think if they're able to keep 1080p 60 FPS on their hybrid models, I think everything will go pretty smoothly. Now, I think what Nintendo also needs to focus a lot more is on new IP. They've seen the success of Bayonetta, when they adopted Bayonetta and continued that series. They've seen the success of Xenoblade when it came out for the Wii. They've seen the success of Splatoon more than anything. I mean, Splatoon has become one of their flagship franchises. And they're kind of slowly phasing out some of the more classic games, and which, it is kind of a bittersweet thing. Me being a huge Zelda fan, my first Zelda game, of course, was in the N64, Ocarina of Time, as a lot of people my age was, what that game was. But I think if they do not innovate, if they don't come up with new IPs, Astral Chain, I'm sorry, I forgot to talk about Astral Chain. Astral Chain was a success in my mind. That game was really, really well made, really well designed. So it's I think Nintendo's starting to slowly but surely see just how much benefit there is to releasing new IPs, coming up with new IPs, keeping things fresh as far as the software side goes. And at least I know Nintendo is also not the kind of company to like really support old franchises. I mean, we see it with Star Fox, we see it with F-Zero, and we know we didn't see it up until Metroid Dread, just how neglected some of these classic franchises are. But I think Nintendo slowly but surely is seeing just how important innovation is for franchises. We saw it with Breath of the Wild. I mean, open world Breath of the Wild was an innovation in itself, but at the same time it wasn't, because as we all know, Breath of the Wild was very, very heavily inspired by the first NES game, with the open world aspects to it, the exploration to it, and just the complete disregard of what the formula of a linear game, the Zelda franchise became. So I think slowly but surely Nintendo is understanding that. They understand that people want new things, they want fresh things. Yes, of course, always giving them what's tried and tested over and over again, as Pokemon usually sometimes does, is always going to be successful. People don't necessarily like change. They adopt change, but if you introduce it in a fresh and non-invasive way, so to speak, like it's just human nature. If it brings a benefit to them, they will embrace the change, as we've seen with Breath of the Wild, as we've slowly but surely seen with the new iterations in Pokemon games, with wild areas and all these new features. So I think the future of Nintendo will have to be heavily focused on innovation, as far as coming out with new IPs or completely overhauling the franchises and just presenting them in new and exciting ways. Now, besides that, I think, as much as I love the hybrid model, I've heard people say that, the Nintendo Switch Lite kind of became a handheld side, the handheld world of Nintendo, because as you all know, Nintendo was always king in handheld. Nintendo was king with the Game Boy, with the DS, with the 3DS, with the Game Boy Advance. Nintendo's a huge, I would say like 60 to 70% of Nintendo's success was from the handheld market. And now that they have a hybrid model, they kind of merged the two, and I think it's worked pretty well. Now, there has been talks about Nintendo, probably this is all a rumor, this is all speculation and predictions, and they're all personal. They're not based on anything other than pure speculation, but I could see some of this kind of playing out. Nintendo developing and releasing a dedicated handheld device. We already see it with the Nintendo Switch Lite, but I think there's gonna be some sort of handheld device that is strictly for, you know, playing on your hands. Like portability was a huge part of for example, the Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy Advance SP, the Game Boy Pocket. All these handheld devices were made to fit in your pocket. Now, I think Nintendo might look into that. They might look into releasing alongside the current the next console generation, whether that be, you know, sticking to the hybrid method. I think they're going to focus on something more portable, a pocket switch, a foldable switch, some kind of device that's going to be able to play the same games that you can play on the Switch but on the go, and make it just more compact. I think the feature here that we need to focus on is portability more than anything. Not so much hardware, not so much like power, but, you know, portability. I think portability is going to be a huge element in the next generation of consoles for Nintendo. Now, am I going to be a fan of that? Yeah, probably, because to be honest, the Nintendo Switch Lite is my main console currently. If I'm not streaming, if I'm not playing, for example, Nintendo Switch Sports, which requires you to play with Joy-Cons, I'm playing on this thing. I'm playing on Nintendo Switch Lite. Why? It's so much lighter. It's the buttons feel a lot less clicky. It just feels a lot better put together in a sense. The creakiness of the Nintendo Switch, the normal sized one, it's too much for me. It's too annoying. I play in bed, and like just hearing like
hey yo, what the fuck
constantly is completely annoying. I don't know if it's a design flaw from the rails where the Joy-Cons go, but it just feels at times a little bit cheap to play handheld with the base Nintendo Switch. But the Nintendo Switch Lite just brought so much good quality of life improvements that I just thoroughly enjoy. Like, as I said, I grew up playing Game Boy. I grew up playing Pokemon on the Game Boy Advance, and it's just something that you can't replace. It's just something that is not very well translated. I just don't know how to say it. Playing Pokemon on the TV is a little bit weird at times. I'm not gonna lie. That if, like I said, if I'm not streaming it, if I'm not trying to show people or trying to just, I don't know, be playing on the couch with my girlfriend and I just want to show her like something that happened in the game, most of the time I'm playing handheld. And I am going to be adopting if they do release a strictly handheld portable version, because man, if I can carry a Switch in my pocket, forget about it. It's over, man. You guys are not getting a word across to me at the dinner table. If we're at a restaurant, I'm gonna be playing that Pocket Switch. Pocket Switch. I think we got something going on there. I'm gonna patent that. But yeah, besides those few things, I think Nintendo is gonna hold off for the next generation. I mean, we've seen it with the PS4, how PlayStation has said that they're going to give continued support to the previous generation, because it's common business. It's common. I'm sorry. It's logic. It's logical. You have a huge player base already in a console generation. Having them move from one generation to the other, from one console to the other, there's a lot of lost opportunity there. Not everyone can afford, not everyone is able to get the next generation. So you're losing out on a lot of money. If you start releasing exclusives for the next generation, you leave out the millions of people who already have the old generation. Sony has said multiple times that they're going to continue support for the PlayStation 4. They're going to continue production for the PlayStation 4. The transition from one generation to the other has to be smooth, and I think Nintendo is in no rush to release the next generation of the Switch. People keep speculating. They keep saying that it's going to come out in 2024 by the end of the year or holiday season. I do not believe it. I think Nintendo is going to edge a little bit more to that 10-year mark. If not, I think by the 8 years when we're going to finally see the next iteration. But at this point, Nintendo is in such a comfortable position They continue selling Switches. It just has not stopped. There is no reason for them to put that roadblock for themselves to transition from one generation to the other. Backwards compatibility might make that transition a little bit better and a little bit smoother, and it will enable them to not lose out on a lot of money trying to sell new games if they implement backwards compatibility in the new console. But it's just, I think Nintendo right now is at the peak. I don't think they're going to start pushing a change or push the next console generation until they start seeing a dip in sales, until they start seeing at least a plateau in sales. So I think 2024 is a little bit too optimistic. I'm gonna push it more into like the 2025 realm if I were to give you an educated guess. Especially with all the games that are currently announced to be released for the Nintendo Switch. I don't think a change that quickly. I mean, of course, I may be wrong, because when Breath of the Wild released for the Wii U, that same day the Switch released. So you never know. This is Nintendo, of course. We're talking about Nintendo. All I can say is that I'm excited for the next generation of the Switch, the next generation of the Nintendo, the next console generation. Whether that be they release a both hybrid method, or they do a strictly portable pocket Switch, that you can take on the go a lot more easily than we already can do with the Nintendo Switch Lite. Whether that be them innovating and releasing more IPs, more exciting stuff, designing new ideas, coming up with new stuff. Backwards compatibility, I think, is a huge road to success for the next console iteration. And I think just continuing working on the hybrid method. I think that if it's not broken, I'm a huge proponent of that. If it's not broken, don't fix it. There's no reason for you to go and try and spice things up, but this is Nintendo we're talking about. They love to innovate in very weird ways. So all I can say is I'm excited. I'm excited for the future of Nintendo. As a huge Nintendo fan, I can't wait. I love it. I love speculating about these things. I feel like a kid again. As I said, there's a huge gap in my gaming career. I don't know if you can call it a career, but and just being back in this space just fills me with so much joy. It fills me with so much wonder, and I just can't wait for what Nintendo has in store for us. Folks, if you liked the video, please go ahead and like it and subscribe over on my YouTube channel. Just search for True Fernie. If you didn't like this video, go ahead and get a thumbs down, because every single bit helps. Please make sure to follow me on Twitch, where I try and stream pretty regularly. Links to that is down in my description below. Please make sure to follow me on Twitter, where you'll most likely find me, because it's where I spend 12 hours out of my day. It's a problem. It is a problem. I'm sorry. But also, please make sure to join our Discord server, where we talk anything and everything gaming, anime, TVs, movies, and anything that might interest you as my viewer. As well, if you're already listening to this, I don't have to tell you, but if you're watching the video version, you can listen to this podcast in an audio version over on Spotify. Just search for Search and Report. Our logo is a Game Boy with the word Search and Report on it. I can assure you, we're the only gaming podcast with the name of Search and Report. I was thinking about this the other day. If y'all don't understand what Search and Report, why this podcast is called Search and Report, because I'm searching for the news and reporting them. But it's also a play on words on search and destroy. If you ever played shooty games, if you ever played Modern Warfare, Call of Duty, you know what game mode this is. So there you go. There's an explanation. Shout out to brand awareness. But yeah, that's all I got for you. That's all I got for you. But I do want to say, whatever the future may hold for us, whatever Nintendo has in store for us, I want you to always, please, take care of each other, but most importantly, take care of yourself. All right? That's it. All right. Peace.